Hey, help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button to subscribe if you want more Cavs-focused content. Was this Evan Mobley's big coming out party as a three-point shooter? He certainly was fantastic in this game from three. He was 6 of 8, and this wasn't a normal, a Biggs having a good three-point shooting night who normally doesn't shoot threes kind of thing. Evan looked real natural shooting that three ball, real consistent. And it's part of a larger pattern with Evan Mobley. If you look at how he's been shooting the three over this year, over last year, slowly but surely, he's been taking more attempts and more of those attempts have been going in. This is building off of a performance he had on Thursday versus the Denver Nuggets where he went 3 of 5 from three, right? Today, he goes 6 of 8 from three. He's been taking more threes a game. He's been making more threes a game. And I think that we have to really start having the conversation about Evan Mobley of if he is a legitimate threat as a three-point shooter. And if that's the case, what does that mean for teams when they guard him? Because again, you look at Evan, he was a 25% three-point shooter, barely shot the ball from three his first year. Second year, same kind of deal, was even worse. But then last year, the three started going in, right? 37 from three. Didn't take too many. Now the attempts are going up. He's still hovering around there at 35% three-point shooting, and that's legitimate three-point shooting ability from a big. How does that change things when you're a team that has to guard Evan Mobley? And now Evan's not just somebody who can get you a hard 25 points. He's somebody who can go out, and if you don't cover him from three, he can get you 40. He did it in this game where he got 40 points versus the Charlotte Hornets. Now, again, I think it's fair to point out, outside of Brandon Miller, the Charlotte Hornets were looking real unrecognizable, right? No LaMelo Ball, none of their players that you're used to them having, right? Taj Gibson played 17 minutes and started in this game. That tells you everything you need to know about what the Hornets were coming into this game. They were injured for sure, or just straight up not healthy. But that being said, all those things kind of being considered, this is something we got to really look at and evaluate. Hey, how is this going to change the math on how teams guard Evan Mobley, right? How much more dominant are those, one big lineups going to be when Evan Mobley can be trusted to be a three-point shooter now, right? How much more effective can Evan Mobley be now that you don't have to sub him out if you're down a significant amount of points because you need some three-point shooting? The defensive ability for Evan Mobley put him on a different realm. If he can follow that up by being the offensive player, look at this stat. His stat line from this game is incredible. My man shot 16 of 23 from the field. He also was 6 of 8 from three, made 3 of his 4 free throws, had 10 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks. Man, and I still think we're watching baby Evan Mobley. I don't think Evan Mobley has really formed into who he's going to be for the rest of his career yet. You could see it. He's getting a lot bigger. He's getting stronger. Muscularly, he's there. Another thing to point out, right? I made this point all last year. I think a lot of Evan Mobley's game was clear to me last year that it was going to come once he got a little bit heavier, right? The jumper, because the jumper always looked smooth from Evan, but it didn't always go in. I thought weight had a lot to do with that, right? The same thing with his three-point shooting where I'm like, the form looks good. He seems to have good selection on these 3-point shots. He just needs to get more weight to anchor down that shot so the arc hits a little bit cleaner for him. And now we're seeing what more weight's doing for his ability to shoot the basketball. He's a legitimate 18-point guy, an 18-point double-double average guy. He's also one of the best defenders in the NBA. I don't know how this dude does not become an all-star this year. If he gets slighted from the all-star game, I think that will be a massive tragedy. But Evan Mobley hooped today, 34 minutes, 41 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 assists. Have yourself a day. And if you, it's funny now, I don't really hear much Evan Mobley doubt these days like I heard the last 2 years. It seems like he is coming into his own and starting to live up to all of the potential that I think people saw coming. And again, this is why I like to remind folks, a lot of people be making definitive opinions about some of these dudes. Evan Mobley is only 23 years old. If he were a if he were a football player, he still could be in college right now. Like, we come to all these judgments on guys who clearly aren't finished products. Evan Mobley, 23 years old. I mean, he would be a year out of college for most people who go for 4 years. And now we're seeing him start to look like how we all expected Evan Mobley to look like. And it's not like he's been bad the past few years. Just the offensive game is starting to come together. Again, 40 points for Evan Mobley. Again, versus a injured Hornets team. I think that point can't be overstated, but still 40 points, 41 points, a 41-point double-double is a 41-point double-double, and you're not going to hear me try to act like that's not a big deal. Another thing I don't want to act like is a big deal is the fact that the Cavs let the Hornets back into this game. They keep doing this, quite frankly, especially in the third quarter of games. I am starting to be concerned if this is a lack of focus at times. I can understand the team in the Cavs position having a little bit of a lack of focus because they have won so many games so far. They're 21-3, but still need the Cavs to be able to maintain the margin of victory, especially versus teams like the Hornets. Because, like, again, this team was hurt to all hell. Like, there was no reason they should have been able to make any kind of push back into this game once you went up 20, other than you let your foot off the gas. And that's one thing with Kenny is like, hey, I like how you come out for these games, but you really got to have that intensity the whole way through. And that's happened a couple of times for more than my liking, and it almost cost you against the Nuggets, right? Like, it's one thing you do this against the Hornets. Yeah, you're going to start putting your starters in. You're going to make a bunch of threes. You're going to cash out, and then you're going to win by 14. Ain't no big deal when you're playing the Hornets. But if you do this versus the Celtics, if you do this versus the Bucks or, the Hawks, we saw that with the Hawks where you were up by 20. The team put their foot off the gas and the Hawks came back and put belt to ass, right? Like, better teams are going to snipe you when you start doing this. So this is a habit that the Cavs really got to get out of. Again, it's fine for the context of this game. But if you continue to let this happen, then you will continue to be a team that blows leads, right? And, giving up a 20-point lead almost when Taj Gibson is one of their starters is just not acceptable in 2024. Straight up right there. And it's happened more than a couple times with this Cavs team where they've gotten a little comfortable with the 10, 20-point lead, take their foot off the gas, don't really keep going with it. Like, Evan Mobley probably should have had way more shots in the third quarter. I think he only took like 3 or 4, and he was hot as hell coming off that second quarter. It's just small stuff like that, right, with this Cavs team where it's like, hey, that's going to cost you in the playoffs. It might cost you a game in the playoffs if you get comfortable. So, you just never want to see the Cavs get comfortable being up 20. You want to see them maintain those leads, especially when you're playing teams that aren't that good. Also, another thing to keep in mind, back on the positive stuff, the Cavs are back to streaking again, right? 4 wins in a row. They play Miami on Sunday. We'll see how that goes off of back-to-back. Another reason why you would want to blow out the Hornets or not let this get close, because you do have that back-to-back. You could have rested your starters for a good half. You took care of business in that second quarter and maintain your lead, or took care of business halfway through the third quarter and maintain your lead. But instead, you had to play all these guys to the fourth. Donovan Mitchell had to play in the fourth. And now, potentially you could drop a game to a Miami team that you shouldn't drop a game to because you didn't take care of business the way you should have with Charlotte, and you had to play in the fourth quarter against them. Then you get Washington at Brooklyn. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Cavs record could be before they get on this little break before Christmas. And then they come back and they have that gauntlet, right? Because after Christmas, December 27th, they play Denver. December 30th, they play Golden State. And then they get LA and then Dallas. All on the road, all on the western half of this country. Going to be a huge test for this team, right? So you might want to build a little bit of a cushion in these games before Christmas so you can take a couple extra losses, because the way that schedule's set up, you're probably going to lose, one of those games between Los Angeles and Golden State, given that you're going to a West Coast road back-to-back. That's tough. So we'll see how the Cavs handle the rest of the season here. But that's my thoughts on this game. Evan Mobley, 40-point double-double. Super encouraged about that and super encouraged about what that can mean for the Cavs going forward. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.